This gentleman right here, he basically said in the back of
This
the
is
room,
not a public comment
he said it's
period.
basically approved. So you guys decided, and why the hell are we here? You know, this kangaroo show. Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. We next will move to the public comment period. And I do just want to point out for the benefit of the audience, the work that was done on these use and development agreements followed the state legislation that had public hearings at every turn and was voted on in a very public body. And the entire framework of this agreement follows that state legislation. But the impact actually for the international games on the authority itself will not be as
Okay, back in, I think it was 1873, I just want to state that when it came to deciding on stuff, the public had a decision that was creating the park board. And we don't have that now. This has just basically been thrown through. We have a situation where Mr. McCarthy over here in the back of the room told those people that it's basically approved. So this is freaking ridiculous, man. How the heck can you guys sit here in your high-paid suits and you're not elected by the people and basically just take money from the people and give it to the Wilks? It is freaking a travesty. How do you sleep at night, people? Look at this. I'm a smoker. See this? I'm paying for the freaking stadium. And it just gets really old. I'm completely pissed off. My name is Jeff Wagner. I'm running for mayor. You can keep my shoes because basically you're just stealing from the people. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Chuck Turchik. I live in the Phillips neighborhood in Minneapolis. I spoke at your August meeting and I thought I made two errors, one of which I would like to clarify, the other I would like to correct. First, I said that with the changing circumstances, you ought to make public the supporting documentation of your audit of the financial condition of the Wilks, including the books of the Vikings. I said that the legislation did not prohibit making the books public. I reread the legislation and concluded I was wrong. But I wasn't. The legislation only refers to financial information obtained from the Vikings as a result of a material breach. It says nothing about financial information obtained for other purposes. You are not prohibited from releasing that data. Second, in August, I praised you for having a public comments portion of your meetings. I was too rash in my praise. I apologized for my error. At this meeting, you have voted on the stadium development and use agreements, and then you take public comments. And those agreements were not available on your website in advance of this meeting. I checked 2 hours before the meeting started. So the public had no opportunity to submit comments, even through your online form. With respect to these two items, these two agreements, which are pretty darn important items, you have allowed public comment only after the fact, and even then with no opportunity to review the documents, which is no meaningful comment, public comment at all. I called this to the attention of your staff, but to no avail. So I will stop wasting your time and mine and let this public comment charade proceed. Thank you very much.
A couple of comments. First of all, the issue is not whether the Vikings can pay for this. And I frankly think it's a charade to be using these naming rights and the seat licenses. I don't think that it would have flown at the legislature if you're talking about $100 million plus for those licenses. That would have shot it down. You say that you're implementing what was done at the legislature. You're called an authority, not a commission. I question, first of all, whether this is even a constitutionally sanctioned body. It seems to me to be a fourth branch of government. You are accountable to the open meeting law. That provides to prohibit actions being taken at a secret meeting where it's impossible for the interested public to become fully informed concerning board decisions or to detect improper influences. This is all from the Minnesota Supreme Court's interpretation of that law. It says to assure the public's right to be informed, to afford the public an opportunity to present its views to the board. You can't say that you're doing that when you don't put the documents out before the meeting. We have yet to see the contracts. The public testimony is being allowed after the vote. This is a travesty. This is a complete joke. This is not what the open meeting law is about, and because of that, this meeting and this approval is illegal. It's going to be challenged. Every one of you and the elected officials that have not stood up to stop this are going to be held accountable to the voters.
Thank you.
We're here to talk about one issue, which is the use of a negative, derogatory, illegal term during the progress of sports in the People's Stadium. And I was very, very impressed with your consideration of affirmative action and inclusiveness. We believe the word redskin has no place in a public stadium, and we believe that there are laws in place within the state of Minnesota, federal laws, and laws also within your own statutes of the operating authority that prohibit the use of a harassment of that term, that type of discriminatory language. And we believe that the people of all color, the people who are all in protected classes, that is something that we can stop here if you take a policy that says we will not permit that word to be deployed in public address and in print. I'd like to introduce Richie Plas from the Menominee Nation. Richie?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Commissioner. I'm at a total disadvantage when you said that we only get a minute and a half. Boy, I have a lot to say, so I'm going to just get to the point.
Thank you.
I have been fighting the mascot logo issue since 1968, and I've been trying to do it with education. I toured the country with the exhibit on Native imagery. I was the director and teacher of Native American Studies at Kent State. I continue my work yet today. And the problem that I've had for a long time is when I hear people in the media or people in gatherings like this saying that I should feel honored by these names and images. They say, we're doing this to honor you. Well, I'm here to say you are not honoring me. I do not look like that figure that's on those helmets and on that football field. And it is one man out of my culture making millions and millions of dollars off of the use and the sales of products that they use that. So, I don't know if my minute and a half is up. I just want to end by saying this. We are planning for the 2 days prior to the Thursday night game when Washington comes to town in November to have the exhibit on display. We'll have speakers, discussion panels, and we will be gathering here at the stadium as we did at Lambeau Field. And it's not a fist in the air type of situation. It's just education and to let you know that there are many of us, Native Americans, do not support that name at all.
We know you care.
Thank you.
We do know you care. This is the chance to make a statement to the world.
And to dispel one myth, as we were sitting out waiting for the meeting, I met a gentleman and we were just talking. And all of a sudden I found out he was from Mille Lacs. And being I'm Menominee from Wisconsin, neither he nor I addressed each other as a fellow Redskin.
Thank the authority for this opportunity with Summit Academy, the Urban League, to try to do outreach to reach our 32% goal. I think we're going to reach it. I think with the help of Morrison, thanks for that contribution. And I think with the help of Robbie Norman, with Thor, I hadn't heard Thor talked about, but Thor is supposed to have a big part in making sure we reach the 32%. And it's in the contract for Morrison to make sure that we reach it. So it ain't, and like Mr. Tittle said, we wanted the contract, we wanted a little more though, Alex. That's what you didn't say. We wanted a little more, but we'll accept what we got. And I'm hoping that our leaders know what they're doing and saying this is enough for us to get started, and if we need more, that they may be able to raise it. I think Bill with the union, I hope we can really collaborate and really make this happen. It's a big deal. for minority communities, particularly African Americans. And so at this time, I just want to thank this authority and know we got a lot of work to do, like Commissioner Williams said, but I think we can get it done. We're ready to try to get it done. And again, I want to make sure Mortensen know that we want to get it done, along with and telling Robbie Norman, Louis King, Scott Gray, or Urban League. So that's what I'll say. But thank you again for the opportunity, and we're going to try to make it happen, and we will be transparent about what's going on. Thank you.
I do want to commend the group for meeting. I know you're not elected officials, you have a tough job to do, but I also have to criticize deeply your outcome. From this perspective, I'll get to the easy things first. Affordable, 80% of average is not affordable. When you consider that there's 65,000 seats in that stadium, many of them are suites, which I did not hear at all tonight. I don't know where suite revenue will come from. I don't know if personal seat licenses will be charged to suites or not. But I can assure you in other stadiums, San Francisco, Dallas, in New York, that revenue is quite extensive. So the fact that you haven't commented on that leaves me very troubled. I don't know who gets that revenue. I'm afraid there might have been a mistake tonight in that you haven't talked about that at all. If you look at the 49ers, they're getting about 2/3 of their suite or PSL revenue from suites. What's happening here? I have not heard anything. Your committee approved it without any discussion on that. And I'm afraid what's going to happen if PSLs are in the suites and they're limited to $10,000, that just means that the Vikings will get more money from charging tickets for the suites. So I think they'll get their money anyway because each seat in the stadium has a particular value. And obviously the 50-yard line seats, those that are bought by affluent individuals and multi-corporations, will still pay a large premium either for the ticket price or the PSL. The fact that you've limited that revenue does nothing to help the taxpayers of Minnesota, both in the city of Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota. We're out $500 million total. Where are their naming rights? They own at least half the state.
I guess I'm not surprised. This process is outrageous, but it's been this way for the entire project. For instance, in this meeting, of course, you don't have the contract out there for people to look at, didn't have the contract for people to look at before the meeting. Now, I don't know if you commissioners had a chance to look at the whole contract. If you only had the summary here, the highlights, it would be outrageous for you to vote on it, of course. If you did have the whole contract available, under the open meeting law, what you are voting on, the things that are discussed at a meeting, must be available to the public at the meeting. That is the law. So, it's either outrageous that you voted without knowing what was going on, or it's illegal, the meeting and the vote. And I think people will follow up on that. And just to give some idea, these highlights here leave an awful lot out. They're pretty biased. One example, City of Minneapolis, $150 million. Well, that doesn't include the City of Minneapolis' contribution to the operating costs. Well, that would be lower down than MSA revenue sources. You list all those revenue sources. You never mention that the people in Minneapolis are on the hook for that also. This isn't a very good summary, and it's not sufficient. You need to do a due process on this and allow the public to have a real chance.